South Africa is facing a severe power crisis that has disrupted the mining industry and the economy. The country's state-owned power utility, Eskom, has been unable to meet the growing demand for electricity due to aging infrastructure, mismanagement, corruption, and lack of investment. As a result, Eskom has implemented frequent and prolonged power cuts, known as load shedding, to prevent a total collapse of the grid. Load shedding has had a devastating effect on the mining sector, which is the largest contributor to South Africa's GDP and exports. Mining operations require a reliable and affordable supply of electricity to run machinery, ventilation, cooling, and processing. Without electricity, mines have to halt production, evacuate workers, and incur losses. According to the Minerals Council South Africa, mining volumes were down by 6%, or $1.8 billion, in 2022 due to load shedding. Load shedding also affects the transport and logistics of mining products, such as coal, which is exported to other countries. The power crisis has also harmed the environment and human rights of communities living near mining areas and coal-fired power plants. Mining and coal-fired power generation are responsible for air and water pollution, destruction of arable land, and biodiversity loss. These impacts violate the rights of hundreds of communities to life, health, water, food, culture, and a healthy environment. Many people suffer from respiratory diseases, cancers, skin infections, and other illnesses due to exposure to toxic substances from mining and coal combustion. The South African government has declared a national state of disaster to address the electricity crisis and its effects. President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced a national energy action plan to improve the performance of existing power stations and to add new generation capacity to the grid as quickly as possible. The plan includes allowing mining companies to generate their own electricity without any restrictions, using renewable solutions such as solar, wind, and battery storage. This will not only support mining operations themselves and bring down operation costs, but also add much-needed power to the country's overall supply and support South Africa's decarbonization process. The power crisis in South Africa is a complex and urgent challenge that requires cooperation and innovation from all stakeholders. The mining industry has an opportunity to play a leading role in finding solutions that are sustainable, affordable, and respectful of human rights and the environment. The examples and progress of some mining companies that have invested or plan to invest in solar, wind, and battery energy projects, such as Sibanye-Stillwater, Anglo American Platinum, and Impala Platinum. South Africa's mining sector is facing increased pressure to address its environmental impact and carbon footprint, as key trade partners implement low-carbon commitments and local demand for carbon-intensive minerals declines. To reduce their reliance on the coal-dominated grid and lower their emissions, some mining companies have invested or plan to invest in renewable energy projects, such as solar, wind, and battery storage. Here are some examples of such initiatives. Sibanye-Stillwater, the world's largest producer of platinum and the second largest producer of palladium, has committed to achieving net zero emissions by the company has installed a 10-megawatt solar plant at its Beatrix gold mine and is developing a 150-megawatt solar plant at its Driefontein gold mine. It also plans to build a 50-megawatt battery storage facility at its Marikana platinum mine. Sibanye-Stillwater estimates that these projects will reduce its Scope 2 emissions by 30% by Anglo American Platinum, the world's largest primary producer of platinum group metals, PGMs, has set a target of reducing its Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 30% by 2030 and achieving carbon neutrality. The company has installed a 75-megawatt solar photovoltaic plant at its Mogalakwena PGM mine, which will provide up to 18% of the mine's electricity demand and reduce its carbon emissions by 120,000 tons per year. It also plans to build a green hydrogen plant at the same mine, which will use renewable energy to produce hydrogen for fuel cell vehicles. Impala Platinum, the world's third-largest producer of PGMs, has pledged to reduce its Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 30% by 2030 and achieve net zero emissions. The company has partnered with renewable energy developer Vusalila Energy to build a 5 MW waste heat recovery plant at its Russenburg operations, which will capture waste heat from the smelter and convert it into electricity. It also plans to install a 22 MW solar plant at its Marila mine and a 75 MW solar plant at its Zimplats mine in Zimbabwe.